When you hear Senate Ethics Committee, you probably think, 3 boring words in a row. Or maybe you think, strongly worded letter of reprimand. At worst, maybe you're thinking censure. Over the last decade or so, that's the kind of news the Senate Ethics Committee makes whenever it makes news. Like, remember the bizarre Senate appointment for President Obama's former Senate seat, Senator Roland Burris, appointed to fill President Obama's old Senate seat in Illinois by that state's governor, Rod Blagojevich, after Mr. Blagojevich had been accused of trying to sell that appointment. The Senate Ethics Committee investigated Senator Burris's contacts with the governor. Ultimately, they cleared Senator Burris of any legal wrongdoing, but they publicly admonished him with this letter. Back in 2006, Republican Senator Pete Domenici called up a U.S. Attorney's office in New Mexico to inquire about, please, might there be any corruption probes of Democrats conveniently timed to the next election? The Senate Ethics Committee responded with a public letter of qualified admonition. You may remember also the Larry Craig airport bathroom arrest sex sting incident thing. That earned Senator Larry Craig a public letter of admonition of his own. You get the picture, right? The Senate Ethics Committee traffics in public letters of admonition. That's what they do. Except today, they did not do that. Today, the Senate Ethics Committee released a 68-page report on their investigation into now former Senator John Ensign of Nevada, along with referrals for prosecution to the Department of Justice and the Federal Election Commission. They also did this.
Ethics Committee rules make clear that whenever its members have, quote, reason to believe, unquote, that a violation of law has occurred, we, quote, shall, unquote, report it to the proper authorities. Our special counsel, Carol Elder Bruce, has written a report that speaks in great detail about her findings, and that report has been released today.
The report clearly indicates that the Senate committee did not act on what it thought, or an opinion, or a whim. It acted on facts determined through hundreds of interviews, 500,000 documents that were examined, and testimony that came to our committee.
These findings are so disturbing that she believed that had Senator Ensign not resigned, and had we been able to proceed to that adjudicatory phase, that the evidence of Senator Ensign's wrongdoing would have been substantial enough to warrant the consideration of expulsion, the harshest penalty available to the Ethics Committee and the Senate. And that is why, when former Senator Ensign resigned, the Vice Chairman and I put out a statement, and we said that he had made, quote, the appropriate decision, unquote.
Senators Barbara Boxer of California and Johnny Isakson of Georgia, Democrat and Republican, chair and vice chair, respectively, of the Ethics Committee. The Ethics Committee is made up of exactly equal numbers of Republicans and Democrats, and that committee voted unanimously to release this scathing report today that alleges wrongdoing and rule-breaking and potentially illegal behavior on the part of now former Republican Senator John Ensign of Nevada. Senator Ensign, you may remember, very conveniently resigned effective the day before he was due to be deposed as part of this investigation. From the written report released by the special counsel today, we learn a lot more than we ever knew about this scandal before. What the special counsel alleges in this report is worse than what was previously known. We learn about how deeply implicated Oklahoma Senator Tom Coburn was in the payoff effort to cover up the affair. We learn very, very granular detail about how C Street and the secretive religious group known as the Family tried to manage the end of the affair to protect Senator Ensign, in effect. We learn that the senator and his office took specific official actions on policy matters because of the affair and the payoff and the cover-up. We get the evidence that Senator Ensign's explanation for that $96,000 payoff after the affair, his explanation was not only a lie, it was a lie that he made his parents swear to, in a way that may have legally implicated them. We learn that Senator Ensign's wife is the one who contacted the woman the senator was sleeping with to tell her she was being fired because of the affair. We learn that the woman Senator Ensign was sleeping with did not want to be sleeping with him. She repeatedly tried to stop the affair, and the pressure to continue it derived from Senator Ensign being her employer and her husband's employer and the sole source of financial support for her now broken apart family. And we learn all of this in a format that reads like a screenplay for a riveting and tragic movie. John Ensign's wife is high school friends with Cindy Hampton. Cindy Hampton was a bridesmaid at the Ensign's wedding. Cindy's husband, Doug, and John Ensign become best golfing buddies. That's page 7. Page 8, John Ensign rises to become the number 4 ranking Republican in the U.S. Senate, living at C Street and taking on one of the leaders of the family as his spiritual advisor. John Ensign travels to Iowa. He is considered a future presidential contender for the Republican Party. Pages 9 and 10, the Hampton family is totally financially dependent on John Ensign. Ensign giving them tens of thousands of dollars worth of loans, propping up their mortgage on a home down the block from John Ensign that they could not afford on their own. John Ensign even paying the private school tuition for the Hamptons' kids, paying for their family vacations. Both of the Hamptons are employed by Senator Ensign. The affair, of course, will end all of that. When the affair ends, both Hamptons lose their jobs. They end up losing their home. And the senator, classy guy, stops paying the Hampton children's school tuition that he had been paying. Page 11, the affair. Senator Ensign described as relentless, persistent. He just wouldn't stop and kept calling and calling and would never take no for an answer. Quote, Ms. Hampton ultimately yielded to Senator Ensign's pleas. Page 12, the affair discovered. Quote, Mr. Hampton found out about the affair, listen to this, on December 23, 2007, while he and his wife were on the way to the airport to pick up their son for the holidays. Senator Ensign was in a separate car on the way to the airport to greet the Hampton's son as well. While waiting in his car as Ms. Hampton went to pick up their son's girlfriend from her home on the way to the airport, Mr. Hampton saw that his wife left her cell phone in the car, and he viewed a text message from Senator Ensign to Ms. Hampton that made clear an affair was occurring. How wonderful it is, scared but excited. When Ms. Hampton came back to the car, Mr. Hampton stated, I know what you and John are doing. Mr. Hampton then called Senator Ensign and said that he knew what was happening. Senator Ensign did not inform his wife at the time. When the cars were parked in the airport parking lot, Mr. Hampton jumped out of his car and chased Senator Ensign in the airport parking lot. Ms. Hampton went into the airport and sat there for hours. Ms. Hampton later took a taxi back to her home. That's 2 days before Christmas. The two families then spend Christmas together. And Senator Ensign pledges it's all over, it was all a big mistake. But by January, he is pursuing Cindy Hampton again. Cindy Hampton is described in the report as despondent over this, but she goes along. Her family is 100% financially dependent on John Ensign, so she goes along. He gives her thousands of dollars in cash to pay for hotel rooms that he has her book in her own name for their liaisons. At the C Street-sponsored National Prayer Breakfast, he tells her he wants to marry her. He makes $1,000 worth of phone calls to her. During a congressional delegation he's on to Iraq, he lists her as Aunt Judy in his cell phone to cover up all the calls he's making to her. It does not work, this cover-up. Senator Tom Coburn lives with Senator Ensign in C Street. The husband of Cindy Hampton asks Tom Coburn and 3 of the leaders of the family in C Street to tell John Ensign that the affair needs to stop. John Ensign says, okay, the affair will stop, but he does not stop. 2 days after their intervention, Tim Coe, one of the leaders of the family at C Street, gets a call from Cindy's husband again saying he spotted his wife's car and John Ensign's car both parked at the same time in a motel parking lot in Summerlin, Nevada. Tim Coe calls Senator Ensign on Ensign's cell phone and tells him, I know exactly where you are. I know exactly what you are doing. Put your pants on and go home. Senator Ensign initially says he would not leave the hotel room, telling Mr. Coe, I can't. I love her. And so the next day, John Ensign fired her husband. After this affair with Cindy Hampton, John Ensign fired her husband, cut off Cindy's kids' school tuition that he'd been paying, and then Senator Ensign's wife fired Cindy herself. The rest of the report details the illegal lobbying job that Senator Ensign put Cindy Hampton's husband into after Ensign fired him from his own staff. How Senator Ensign retaliated against a constituent who would not hire Doug Hampton for that illegal lobbying job, telling his staff to, quote, jack him up to high heaven and tell him that he is cut off from the office and never to contact Senator Ensign again. How the senator's office facilitated that illegal lobbying by Doug Hampton and did what Doug Hampton asked, using the power of the office of a United States Senator in order to make good on this payoff after the affair. The illegal $96,000 check to the Hampton family arranged by Senator Ensign. How Senator Ensign had his parents explain that payment in a way that his father totally disavowed and denied under questioning by the special counsel. In trying to cover up the whole sordid affair, the affair itself, the payout, the illegal lobbying, all of it, Senator Ensign started using Gmail instead of Senate email accounts. He started a new shredding policy in his office. He changed the responsibility of his Senate staffers, so the ones who realized that what was going on was probably illegal no longer got to see what was going on anymore. His chief of staff, John Lopez, did realize that what was happening was at least wrong and potentially illegal. So John Lopez got put in charge of handling the details of most of it in a way that would protect Senator Ensign. John Lopez is implicated as the senator's chief of staff. Why is he not in trouble? Because he got immunity from prosecution. He got immunity from prosecution in exchange for spilling the beans on John Ensign. The special counsel also tried to get immunity for the husband, for Doug Hampton, get him immunity about the illegal lobbyist job and all the rest of it. But the Justice Department would not let that happen. They've got Doug Hampton under indictment, which is where Senator John Ensign may ultimately end up as well. The special counsel noting that there is enough evidence here to likely have had John Ensign expelled from the Senate if he had not resigned and skedaddled last week about a half second ahead of the cavalry. But the referral of this evidence to the Election Commission and to the Justice Department for potential criminal prosecution probably means that this is really not over. Now former Senator Ensign may yet be indicted. Doug Hampton is indicted. John Ensign's chief of staff, who he dragged down with him, only escaped the same fate by being granted immunity in exchange for his testimony. Cindy Hampton and Doug Hampton are now divorced. The report says that Cindy Hampton is now filing for personal bankruptcy as well. She's trying to move to California to start her life over. She describes her life as ruined. Senator Ensign's parents are potentially in legal jeopardy as well for lying in statements they did not seem to understand that Senator Ensign had drawn up for them to sign and that they disavowed when they were asked about them by the special counsel. Who's the only one in all of this story who's doing fine? Senator Tom Coburn of Oklahoma. The man who knew about Senator Ensign's affair and kept it secret and tried to negotiate a nice settlement to end it, a financial settlement. Senator Coburn is trying to negotiate a good deal for Senator Ensign. Right? This is in the report. Tom Coburn trying to negotiate a good deal for Senator Ensign, page 37 of the report, trying to negotiate a payout to the family to make the scandal go away. Quote, Senator Coburn recalled that he was on his tractor at his home, mowing his lawn at the time, and was annoyed to receive the call in the middle of that task. But Senator Coburn did take the call on his lawnmower, and he played his role in the John Ensign scandal. Tom Coburn's role was to make a lower financial counteroffer when he heard how much money the Hamptons wanted from John Ensign. He was the one who negotiated a lower potential payout amount to John Ensign's mistress. He was out to save John Ensign some money in covering up this affair. Everyone else this touched had their life destroyed by this, but Tom Coburn, still in the Senate, doing fine. His website bragging today about how he is a co-sponsor of the Defense of Marriage Act. Joining us now is John Ralston, columnist for the Las Vegas Sun, host of Face to Face with John Ralston, and a man who features prominently on page 42 of the special counsel report on the Senator Ensign scandal. John, I am not sure if congratulations is exactly the right thing to say in a case like this, but I do feel like all your reporting and your focus on this has been vindicated. Do you feel that way?
Well, I don't know if my reporting has been vindicated, Rachel, but I'll tell you who has been vindicated here, Doug Hampton, because everything he said on page 42, it's a link to that program. We had him on Face to Face less than a month after John Ensign's disclosure, has been borne out to be true. The severance pay, the conspiracy to get him the lobbying jobs, the full knowledge that John Ensign had, and Tom Coburn's role, which he detailed, and it's even more detailed, as you mentioned, in those granular details as you described it in that report, Rachel. He called Mike Ensign, John Ensign's father, which, according to the report, resulted in a torrent of expletives from the usually staid Senator Ensign. So everything Doug Hampton has said about what happened here has been vindicated in that report. And Doug Hampton is the one who's under indictment, and John Ensign is a free man. It seems like there's something wrong there, Rachel.